in 2019, the then incumbent government, the NPP, boycotted all media programs of Multimedia Group following its airing of a malicious documentary by Manas Asuru, an investigative journalist, which they perceive as fabricated and intended to make the government unpopular, itemizing in evidence. Similarly, in May 2020, the NDC also boycotted the famous Okoko show of Peace FM and described the host, Kwame Sofakai, as a dictator and bias, itemizing in evidence. These are ample evidence that the media and the freedom it enjoys is damaging our democracy. Now, to our third argument, professional impropriety. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the Ghana Journalists Association 2020, 70% of journalists believe that bribery and corruption are prevalent in the media industry. Many media personalities use their platforms to amass wealth and enrich themselves as they throw professionalism to the dogs and dance to the tune of politicians just to receive political favors and rewards, including appointments into national offices, the appointment of renowned journalists like Honorable Kojo Okon Nkrumah, Randy Apple, and Roman Atta are proofs of quote unquote standard journalism. The likes of Captain Smart, Kelvin Taylor, Ahineba Nana Asiedu, and Okateji the Free Farm, whose voices echoed in the Ghanaian media space if they are direct opposite of what media freedom epitomizes: to educate, to inform, and to transform society. Now, to our fourth argument, political instability. Ladies and gentlemen, media freedom in Ghana has indeed done more harm than good to our democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, a classic example is the Boko crisis, as I tell her in an exhibit. The chair, the House, considering the validity and soundness of these arguments, we hope
the chair, members of this House. Today, we have before us a topic of very great relevance. We are here to discuss on media freedom and its impact on Ghana's democracy. The chair, impartial panel of adjudicators, accurate keeper of the second, distinguished guests, co-debaters, fellow students, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from MFANTSIPIM. I am Master Nanakwesi Arthur, the principal speaker against the motion before the House, and I quote, "Media freedom has done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy." What is this motion saying? Media freedom refers to the right of the press to investigate, report, and inform without censorship or political control. Ghana's democracy refers to the constitutional system under the 1992 Constitution that guarantees free elections, accountability, rule of law, and fundamental rights. The phrase "has done more harm than good" means that the negative implications of media freedom on democracy outweigh its positive contributions. With this understanding of the motion in mind, the onus falls upon the proposition to prove that historically, with evidence, logically, media freedom has done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy, which they have failed to do. That is where I come in, to prove to this House that despite its imperfections, even in its imperfections, media freedom has never done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy, but rather promoted and redefined our democracy. And as logical as I can be, my supporting speaker will tender in evidence as I speak. So sit back, relax, fasten your seatbelts, and enjoy this flight. It won't take long. Mr. Chairman, Madam Speaker, Madam Chairman, hear me out. Media freedom has strengthened institutional checks and balances in Ghana. Media freedom has gone a long way to strengthen our institutions, our governmental institutions, our parliament and judiciary. This means that our media scrutinize our government. When the media scrutinizes government failures, it places sustained pressures on institutions to act, reform, and investigate. This improves the systems of checks and balances that supervise and prevent the abuse of power. Research shows, by Afrometer, shows that about 85% of Ghanaians say that the media should constantly report on government failures and mistakes, proving how relevant media freedom is. Again, in 2015, the investigative journalist Anas Arabia Anas' expose of 34 judges taking bribes led to dismissals and reforms in the judicial service of Ghana, proving how media freedom has strengthened our rule of law and fought corruption. With these arguments, I say that Mr. Chairman, whatever I have said here means that media freedom has never done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy. It has given voice and flow to our democracy. Mr. Chairman, hear me out. Media freedom has contributed to peaceful conflict management. Ghana is mentioned among the top most peaceful countries in Africa, and it is not overselling to say that media freedom has played a crucial role in that. How? Media freedom has provided lawful platforms for dissent, grievances, and public consent. By allowing issues to be aired openly, the media has reduced the likelihood of violence and extralegal confrontations, helping Ghana to manage political tensions peacefully. The chair, it means that media freedom has given voice and it has given our democracy peace. It has given the people of Ghana peace. And what is a democracy without peace? The chair, hear me out. Evidence shows that both state-owned media and private media contributed to the 2000 elections by improving accountability and fair elections, leading to a peaceful transfer of power. Again, the National Commission for Civic Education, which by the 1992 Constitution of Ghana is mandated to promote and sustain Ghana's democracy, relies heavily on mass media platforms for their civic education campaigns nationwide, improving citizens' knowledge of their rights and duties. What can we say about this? Media freedom has never done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy. It has given voice to our democracy. The chair, hear me out. Media freedom has improved civic literacy and informed decision making. An informed citizenry is the bulwark of democracy, Thomas Jefferson said. He wasn't also wrong when he said that where the press is free and every man able to read, all is safe. Today, media freedom in Ghana has ensured that we do not just participate in democracy, we understand it. Through news analysis, voter education, and public policy explanations, the media has gone a long way to improve civic education. That is the backbone of democratic legitimacy. Take the Multimedia Group Limited, for instance. Every election year, they introduce their election headquarters, GOMOA Power, which trains and teaches Ghanaians about elections, allowing citizens to make informed decisions, vote responsibly, and behave well during elections. Also, the National Commission for Civic Education relies on mass media also to train Ghanaians and help them understand the relevance of elections. The chair, hear me out. Media freedom has strengthened electoral transparency and public trust. Media freedom has done this by providing policies and providing ways by investigating and following elections, by monitoring electoral processes, reporting irregularities, and publishing results. The media has gone a long way to promote public trust and transparency in our elections. Now, an article on media coverage of elections by Isaac Apone shows that the news media played an important role in providing public trust and transparency in the 2016 general elections, and stating clearly that, and I quote, the news media have been an important catalyst in the democratization process. Clearly, this shows that media freedom has never done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy. The chair, hear me out. Media freedom has enhanced accountability in public spending. Let's talk economic issues. Media freedom has not allowed only scrutiny of corruption, but also how public resources are spent. Reporting on abandoned projects, inflated contracts, and poor service delivery has led to Ghanaians understanding and knowing what is happening in the country and better check the efficiency and responsiveness of government systems. Let's look at a few, shall we? 1. The Graphic Online reported on Agenda 111 Hospital Project, which, as said by President Mahama just last year, needed about $1.7 billion to complete. Again, City Newsroom reported on the District Road Improvement Program contract, which, as revealed by Samuel Obujeto Ablakwa, was inflated about over $100 million. These evidence show that media freedom has never done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy. And so, let us rise and say that if my opponents may disagree, but if we are truly grateful for the democratic gains that we enjoy today, then we will rise with one voice and declare with conviction that this motion must fall. Thank you.
our field argument, promotion of violence. Ladies and gentlemen, our position still remains. Media freedom has done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy, as it has become a catalyst for political violence in the country's political campaigns, as rightly noted by Professor Kwame Karenga in his work titled The Media and Democracy 2011, quote unquote. The media can be a powerful tool for promoting peace or violence. Unfortunately, most media houses in Ghana hide behind media freedom to incite ethnic, tribal, and religious sentiments rather than the promotion of constructive dialogue. The social media platforms such as Facebook and X are awash with inflammatory comments and posts, amplifying hate speeches and ethnic hatred, as highlighted by the 2022 report, Hate Speeches in Ghana, by the Media Foundation for West Africa. Esteemed judges, most Ghanaians use the media to spew threats and insults, undermining Ghana's democracy. A lot of political violence in Ghana were orchestrated by media posts and publications that invited citizens to react, as seen in the 2012 and 2016 elections. This is according to January 2018 in his work titled Media and Conflict in Ghana. Now, to our seed argument, weak and non-existent regulatory framework. Esteemed panel of judges, the media's resistance to regulation undermines the effort to establish a robust framework, creating a culture of impunity, while media outlets disregard rules and regulations. Panel of judges, unfortunately, there are no adequate legal frameworks regulating the hundreds of radio stations, the proliferation of digital media, as well as television networks. Simply put, no laws govern broadcasting standards in Ghana, paving the way for abuse and violation of media freedom. The National Media Commission, which is constitutionally mandated to regulate media operations in Ghana, is inefficient and incapacitated, simply not up to the task. Let's watch this video.
The legal lacuna within the broadcasting space, there is also the problem of the inefficiency and incapacity on the part of the National Media Commission, which is the regulator. 30 years I must say that 30 years after its creation, at this point, the Media Commission has become really powerless, it is under-resourced, and it has become moribund, and we need to say it as it is.
Esteemed panel of judges, this void allows media outlets to operate unchecked, often prioritizing sensationalism over responsibility and undermining Ghana's democracy. Now, to our final argument, normalization of unethical journalism. The chair, I wish to state emphatically that during the colonial era and early independence, media outlets in Ghana, like the Accra Evening News, established by Nkrumah in 1948, and subsequently the Daily Graphic established in 1962, were to serve as watchdogs of government, operating with principles and standards. Fast forward these 9 years, unethical journalism is normalized in Ghana. Money now dictates news content. Democracy is sold to the highest bidder, and media freedom is abused. Panel of judges, interviews are even sponsored while coverage is false. The check, most media houses in Ghana have shifted from their traditional roles into active participation on social media platforms, which has become the norm of the century. In their quest to monetize content and generate traffic, some of these media houses disseminate information that is often unverified, sensational, and controversial, mainly to attract views, comments, and shares, ultimately undermining Ghana's democracy. Now, rebuttals. The chair, our opponent said that media freedom has promoted accountability and transparency. This is quite laughable, chair. I want our opponent to know that any form of accountability requires truth and balance. When allegations are aired without investigation, accountability turns into public lynching, and that is not democracy. So, that argument is completely unacceptable. They also said that media freedom has promoted corruption in Ghana. The chair, we are not advocating for censorship, but rather responsible freedom. Unregulated freedom creates chaos, not accountability. So, that argument is flawed. The chair, the House, ladies and gentlemen, based on the validity and soundness of these arguments,
I present to you a country called Ghana, where the voice of the people is not silenced, where truth is not suppressed, and corruption dares not to hide in shadows. Thanks to the National Media Commission and Article 162 for protecting and elementary media freedom, which has done very good to our democracy, which they call it a harm. The child the house fellow Ghanaians, as the popular Ghanaian phrase goes, says Papa will be a man and okay. Therefore, I must take over the supporting speaker. Do not rise ready to oppose this motion. I rise to parry it. To my advice, Mr. Chairman, media freedom is an effective weapon in exposing corruption. Let me wind back the clock to the year 2015, where Ghana scored 34 and corruption scored my opponent's favorite score 0. Our free press exposed and removed 34 corruption from our judiciary. That is not a harm. That is a major surgery on a diseased system because corruption in a democracy breeds political apathy and cripples economic development. With our free media exposing corruption, it has led to economic justice and free and fair share of national gain. Due to the increased exposure of ghost news, just like the one in the National State Secretariat scandal. To my second point, Mr. Chairman, media freedom is the cornerstone of Ghana's global democratic reputation. Ghana's global reputation wasn't built on science, it was built on exposures like Ghana in the eyes of God. This statement is straight and right. It is certified by the World Press Freedom Index 2023, ranking Ghana first in West Africa, a true reflection of fearless journalism on COVID-19 procurement scandals, General Edubandi's embezzlement case, and the National State Secretariat scandal, which was in 2018. That reputation is assured. It has attracted investors globally, and the evidence is very clear. Our media freedom has projected our democracy, which has directly helped score the following. 1. Over $1.2 billion in the MCC grant, which is being used to construct some major highways in the country. 2. The AFCFTA headquarters, which is in Accra. This is the World African Market. It is in Accra. 3. The role of Ghana as West Africa's trusted peacemaker. Is this what you call a combined opponent? Mr. Chairman, to my third point, media freedom opened the doors of political participation and inclusivity to every citizen. Kukudu! Eshira Duradu, Eyezu, Eyeza. These were political leaders empowering citizens and creating a sense of belonging with the political processes. During the 2020 and 2024 elections, the media gave platforms to citizens to call into their live programs to challenge promises in the NPP and NDC manifestos, ranging from the free SHTS policy to the one district, one factory promise. These platforms gave ordinary Ghanaians, like your parents, the ability to challenge promises in the manifestos, calling political parties to clarify their policies on jobs, health, and education. Mr. Chairman, from the very rise of His Excellency the President John Dramani Mahama, he says democracy is not a spectator sport, it is a participant event. And what made this participation broad? It was media freedom. What made this participation inclusive? Media freedom. And what made this participation authentic? Answer that for yourself. Media freedom. Mr. Chairman, so what is the tangible result of all of this? It is the fact that 1. Ghana has not had a civil war while our neighbors have. 2. It is the fact that we can change government at the ballot box and not at the barrel of a gun. 3. It is the fact that the tomato seller in one can challenge promises in policy, and even your parents have a voice in our democracy. Is this what you call a my opponent? Mr. Chairman, my opponent claims some foreign arguments. Let me not hesitate to give them a resounding praise. They claim that media freedom promotes misinformation. Mr. Chairman, they are probably conflating institutional media freedom with the anarchy of social media. Professional journalism under a free press, like what we are enjoying in Ghana currently, is bound by ethics and editorial oversight. So where lies the argument? I push it in the trash. Mr. Chairman, our arguments show a weak research work because if you are supporting the motion that media freedom has done what have done, then I expected you to say that media freedom creates negative image of Ghana, which can scare investors. And I will tell you that transparency attracts ethical investors. A high press freedom market is a badge of credibility. And our Ghana, I mean my Ghana and your Ghana, is honored with that badge of credibility, which has attracted investors from all spheres of the world. 2. I expected you to say that media freedom is respect our leaders. Then I will tell you that respect is not earned and it is mandated. I will tell you that respect is earned and not mandated. Would you rather have a respectful democracy under a dictator or a questioning press in a democracy? I expected you to also say that media freedom increased low voter turnout, just as we saw in the 2024 elections. And I will tell you that democracy isn't built on blind trust, it is built on verified trust. And our media freedom empowers citizens to vote strategically and not blindly. that media freedom fuels polarization and division. Mr. Chairman, division didn't start with the media. The media just made it evident. And you claim that Net TV, Net2 TV, and the rest do partisan media. Listen, that was a forum for them to educate their followers. Like an MPP fan, that is your channel that you know what's going on, what your party promises to do in public. So it is not that they are doing partisan politics. No, check out the matter. Mr. Chairman, the evidence is written in our history. Without media freedom, the criminal law, labor law, which arrested some journalists some years back during the regime of Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, it would have still continued to jail journalists like Anas and the likes. Two, the Senate scandal would have buried $189 million in silence. And three, the Galamsey Queen, Aisham One, would have still remained harmless. With a smile as my signature and enthusiasm as my passport, I am Master Clover Jadongo, the supporting speaker at the
I crave your indulgence to begin my sermon with a preparata. Our opponents have argued that media freedom strengthens accountability and transparency of the government, exposing corruption, abuse of power, and maladministration. They also erroneously assume that media freedom has enhanced citizens' participation in government and protect minority voices. The jury. My response to this argument is simple. All these assertions are without legal foundation, fundamentally flawed, and constitutionally unsustainable, and must accordingly be disregarded for lack of argumentative merit. The House, throughout the discourse, our opponents spoke of freedom in theory. We speak of freedom in reality. Freedom that destroys trust, peace, and truth is not democratic freedom. It is democratic danger. The chair, all protocols observed. A beautiful presentation, they say, deserves a beautiful summary. That is why I mount this stage again to give a summary on the glare of vivid points we have raised in affirmation of the motion. In all, we have raised the following cogent argument to affirm our stand. 1. Media freedom has promoted sensationalism over responsibility. 2. Media freedom has spread misinformation and disinformation, undermined elections in Ghana. 3. Media freedom has promoted professional impropriety in Ghana. 4. It has endangered national security as it fuels violence and hate speeches. 5. Media freedom has normalized unethical journalism as many now dictate news content in democracy, so to the highest bidder. 6. Weak regulations have allowed abuse to flourish. 7. Media freedom is often misconstrued as a license for recklessness and abuse in Ghana. And finally, media freedom has encouraged sensationalism over responsibility. The chair, Brian Magbo, once said, a painful truth is better than a pleasant lie. And of course, the painful truth is that media freedom in Ghana has done more harm than good to our democracy. Thank you.
Every time we find something that belongs to street. Another times we find something that belongs to history. But at some pretty momentous times, we find things that belongs to both. And today, one thing belongs to both. The fact that media freedom has never done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy. But before we decide whether media freedom has done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy, let us answer one simple fundamental question. Is democracy safer when power is questioned, or it is safer when power is silenced? Because throughout history has taught us that democracies do not collapse from noise, democracies collapse from silence. And today we, the opposition, have proven that media freedom has never done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy. In fact, it has done the work that democracy requires, and that is what everybody wants. We stated these points, and I would like to re-echo them. Mr. Chairman, we said that media freedom has strengthened civic institutional checks and balances. We also said that media freedom has contributed to peaceful conflict management. We also said that media freedom has solidified electoral transparency and public trust. 4. Media freedom has encountered accountability in public speaking. 5. Media freedom has been effective tool for exposing corruption. We also said that media freedom is the cornerstone for Ghana's global reputation. We also echoed that media freedom has strengthened political participation and positivity in events. Looking at the point that we have raised and weighing our opponent's own on a relative balance, the balance tips towards our own. And what is our end? The end is that media freedom has never done more harm than good to Ghana's democracy. It has given our voices. It has given us the power to speak. Media freedom has given us the power to live in this country without fear, without corruption. It has given us the power to expose corruption, and that is what everybody wants.